Okay, fellas, I know we're all really looking forward to awards night coming up. I know John's got a slideshow of his wee fella leprechaun, so we're all looking forward to that.
His name's John Jr.
Yep, but before then, Dynamo Moscow, if we win this game, we guarantee ourselves knockout football in the Champions League for the first time, okay? So if we just get a win in this game, then we can really get on the hard stuff on awards night. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 101 of Husavik Heroes here on Shaun Does FM. I hope you are doing well, and coming up in today's episode we take on Dynamo Moscow at a neutral venue, a win in that game, and we guarantee ourselves Champions League knockout football for the first time in this save. And off the back of that we do have our end of season review, so if you are looking forward to today's episode then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But this is what the group does look like off the back of yesterday's episode. If you missed that one, 2 home games in which we did pick up 2 wins, I'll leave a link to that over in the top right corner, and it also takes into account the fact that there has been an early kickoff in the group on this 4th match week, and Manchester City do remain unbeaten, coming from behind to pick up a 2-1 win against Leipzig at home. So that does lock in the fact if we can win this game in today's episode at a neutral venue against Dynamo Moscow, we guarantee ourselves that at least we will finish second in this group and for the first time have some Champions League knockout football to look forward to. It was a narrow win yesterday over Dynamo Moscow. It probably should have been a little bit more comfortable, but it's not quite as clinical in front of goal as we did need to be, and it'll be interesting to see how we do get on in this game, which is actually being played in Helsinki in Finland. So I suppose that might actually suit us a little bit more than our opposition, of course, with Russian teams now in game having to play all their games at a neutral venue for obvious reasons, but I'd like to think that venue might just suit us a little bit more, staying in amongst the Nordic countries. But we're going to get into this game fairly shortly, but before that, unfortunately, we do have a few injuries that we do need to consider going into this one game of today's episode. Rosario Renzi has a twisted ankle. He is out for 8 days to 3 weeks, so he is not going to be on the bench for this one. And Gaetano Duplisco, our starting centre-back, has picked up a virus just long enough so that he is going to be missing from today's game as well. Thankfully, a very, very good replacement in the team, and Ali Ramadan will step in for Duplisco at centre-back, and it does mean that we can bring Torstein Arnason back onto the bench in place of Rosario Renzi as well. So we still have a very strong lineup here for today's game win, and we are into the Champions League knockouts for the first time, and we'll come back shortly from Finland for this hopefully historical Champions League group stage game. And here are the team sheets for this one. First off, our Russian opposition. There is their lineup, looking fairly similar to what we did take on in yesterday's episode. Exactly the same formation as us as well. We just have that one change in the starting 11 with Ramadan coming in for Duplisco, and hopefully we can pick up a win here to put ourselves in the knockouts for the first time. And 3 minutes gone, we have an early highlight in this game with us being the away team. We are in the black, Dynamo are in the blue, but we are on the attack. Nice and early good ball there for Frederick Larsson. Tight angle, squares it for Rubio. That is some save that by the Dynamo goalkeeper. That looked for all money like that would be a goal there to Benjamin Rubio, but a brilliant save there. We do have a corner. Ramadan can't quite get his head on the end of that great chance, but still 0-0 inside the first 10 minutes. Up to the 29-minute mark for our next highlight, it is a throw-in inside the final third. Unfortunately, Bruno Fuchs is able to get on the end of that, but that clearance will fall to Galtason, and we do look to build from the back. The game stats-wise is certainly quite even at the moment. Good chance here, though, for Satole, and yet again, a great save there by the Dynamo goalkeeper. So he is keeping his team right in this so far based on the highlights that we have seen. This time again, we try and pick out Ramadan at the near post, but the Dynamo defence does deal with that, and it is still 0-0 at the half-hour mark. And we are now up to the 34-minute mark. We do have a free kick, which this time we do take short, which is interesting. We'll see what comes from this one. The ball does fall back to Satole. Caviglia out to Zimmerman. down the right-hand side. He squares it for Rubio, and this time we put it in the back of the net with a little bit of help from the inside of the upright, and it's fair to say that goal has been coming based on the highlights that we have seen in this game so far. Benjamin Rubio back on the score sheet, and we do get a 1-0 lead, which at the moment would be enough for us to secure ourselves Champions League knockout football for the first time. Good little routine there from the short free kick, and we go 1-0 up with 10 minutes left here in the first half. And that is half-time in this one. Highlights-wise, we certainly have dominated this game and got that late goal there to Benjamin Rubio to give us a 1-0 lead after some quite good chances just before that. Stats-wise, things were quite even about halfway through that first half, but we certainly kicked into gear in the second half of it and do take a deserved 1-0 lead into the sheds. Fairly happy with how everyone is playing at the moment, so no changes, and hopefully we can hold on and secure knockout football at the end of this one. And up to the 62-minute mark for our first highlight here of the second half, we try and ping a ball out there to Zimmerman. It does reach him. The missed header there by the Dynamo defence, and Zimmerman through on goal here, but his shot is straight at the Dynamo goalkeeper. We've had some good chances in this game, but still only find ourselves 1-0 up with 25 minutes left. And up to the 72-minute mark, we are going to make our first substitution. Satole is down to a red heart. Maurizio Goffi to come on for him inside the last 20 minutes. We are still 1-0 up. And 6 minutes later, we're going to make another substitution with a player down to our red heart. This time it is the goal scorer coming off, Benjamin Rubio, Fabio Mariano to come on for him. And we are inside the last 10 minutes. We're going to make our last substitution. Thiago Paulo at the back is on a 6.3 rating. We still only hold a 1-0 lead. So despite some other players out there being on red hearts, I think we'll just shore up the defence here. Hopefully bring on Gabriel Corbo for Paulo, and we can hold on to this result, hopefully, in these last 10 minutes. And we are at the 85-minute mark. It is a throw-in here for Dynamo, albeit they're going to have to play out from a long way inside their own half, but they are still only one goal behind. We have had a lot of chances, and that's a good header one there by Ramadan, and hopefully we can put another one away here, because I do feel like we should have a better lead. Goffi with a great chance, blast that over the bar. Hopefully these missed chances don't come back to haunt us here inside the last few minutes, but we'll just wait and see what does happen here as we are about to enter injury time. There is going to be 4 minutes of it, but so far Dynamo have really had no highlights in their favour in this game, and that is going to continue to be the case. And for the first time in this save, we have Champions League knockout football here at Völsungur. It does come off the back of two very, very scrappy wins there against Dynamo Moscow. We completely outplayed them in both games, but our finishing not really up to the standard that we would like. But in the end, it doesn't matter. We pick up some 1-0 wins off the back of that 2-0 win in the first game of yesterday's episode against Leipzig, and that is enough for us, getting those 9 points to see us through to the Champions League knockouts for the first time in this save. Still 2 games left to go coming up in tomorrow's episode, but absolutely no pressure on those ones now, which is very nice indeed. At home to Man City and then away at Leipzig. So we are in a very, very nice position now, already through to the Champions League knockouts with 4 games played off the back of that 1-0 win over Dynamo. We'll come back shortly, have a look at the group just to confirm we are through, and then get stuck into the end of season review. And here is the confirmation that we are through to the Champions League knockouts for the first time off the back of that 1-0 win, thanks to that first half Benjamin Rubio goal. We are on 9 points after 3 wins in our last 3 games. Both Leipzig and Dynamo are both on 1 point with only 2 games left. The most that they can get to is up to 7 points. We could still finish first in this group, but to do that, we need to beat Manchester City in the first game of tomorrow's episode. We might actually try a slightly edited tactic in that one to try and limit the damage after they did bump us in the first game of the group stage a few episodes ago, but we'll run through that tactic when I figure it out before tomorrow's episode. But that is that. We are through to the Champions League knockouts for the first time, but we do have the end of season review to get stuck into now. And here it is on screen. All 4 trophies domestically we have won again after just missing out on the Dieldebekar thanks to Breidablik last season. Yet again this season, they were the team that did deny us an unbeaten season in the league, but we'll get to that shortly. First off, transfers. This is not going to take nearly as long as it has over the past few years, because there were only 4 new additions to the club here. The signing of the season was actually Peter Lervik, 21 starts, and he was the replacement for Michel Serafellini after we let him go to Brighton and Hove Albion at the end of the last European season. He's done a decent job in goal for us so far, with that 7.18 average rating. The board weren't too happy with that transfer with a C rating, but despite that, he has been awarded our signing of the season. The player with the highest average rating, actually Ali Ramadan. It was a very good deal, £600,000 for the Congolese centre-back. Nice rating, and he's done a good job in his 16 appearances. The board a lot happier with that transfer, but he does not pick up signing of the season. Still was a good one. The other starting player that we did sign was John Matthews for £550,000 from Bohemian. Again, a C grade from the board, but he has been good so far. 7.32 average rating for us at right back. And a more recent addition right at the end of that transfer window was Basilo Gay. That is certainly one for the future, A rating, because we only spent £70,000 on the 3-star rated Senegalese defensive midfielder. He's looked quite solid for us so far, albeit in limited starts. Most of his football has been for the under-19 team, but those are 4 very solid transfers, and we do have a quite big transfer budget to use when the transfer window does open up here in Iceland in mid-February, right off the back of our first leg of the Champions League knockout round. In terms of transfers out, we did make a lot of them. Scott Guest, the top rated of those in terms of rating, given a C, but we weren't really using him much here at the club as well. Almedi Ben Musa left for HK, has done a good job for them, so don't mind that transfer considering he did leave for a domestic rival, even though the board did give it a C-. Leonardo Rosero, we didn't really play that much, even though the board gave that transfer a D. We got decent money for him at £175,000, so don't think that transfer was too bad. Gennaro Maro, £34,000 coming in yet again for a player who did not play for the first team. The same can be said for the likes of Asgierson. He's had a decent season and limited appearances from the bench for Phil Kerr. He might be helping them out in the Conference League. We'll check on how they are getting on in that before the end of today's episodes. The Kulderak was given a C+ rating for that sale. He was a bit more of a fixture a few seasons ago in the first team and has done a decent job since leaving for Fun. Bakale Samake never really featured when we did upgrade on him with Chaka Traore when we did replace Sergio Cadena at the club a few seasons ago, getting £93,000 for him from Oostende in Belgium. And then we have a few transfers that we did do for free. Sigurdsson leaving for Nuts KR, Stepan Novicius leaving for Akranes. They were given fairly average ratings, no doubt because we didn't get any money for those 2 young players, even though they've done a decent job for the other Icelandic teams, which I suppose kind of fits with the Builder Nation side of this challenge. Then we've got a few more players here who weren't playing too much for the first team, who we got some decent money for. Samuel Afosu was a player who was featuring a little bit more, but in the end his potential just dropped a little bit, so we sold him to Paderborn for a quite decent amount of money there in £250,000, making a little bit of a profit from that sale. For Philippe West, we made a bit of a deficit on that sale. He left for £53,000, but yet again a player we weren't going to play too much in this season. Then we have the likes of Goodness on. That was a terrible, terrible sale considering how much we did pay for him. But again, a player who we would not have played too much this season. Even then, he only ended up with a 6.93 rating at Eindhoven once he left us. Pat Ainscoe for £300,000 going to the MLS. Yet again, a player whose potential did decrease just below that line where we would have liked it. He's had an okay season since going back to the MLS. The big sale, I suppose, was Mikel Serafellini. That was after we did sign Will Lurvik to replace him. He left at the end of the European season for £150,000, which I don't think is a bad deal for a player who is not getting that much game time at Brighton, 30 years old, and would have been our backup goalkeeper anyway. Then some players who didn't get much game time here to round things off: Gomez, Luis Fernando, Serdan Ivkovic, who was actually a decent backup for us late last season. Unfortunately, could not renew his contract, so he did leave on a free transfer. The same can be said for Hugo Serpa, albeit he did play limited games for us here at the club. So I know the board rated a lot of those outgoing transfers pretty poorly, but in the end, I think we have certainly strengthened the team here over the last season. Have tried to help out some of our fellow Icelandic teams, and in the end, we're doing a better job than we did last season because for the first time, we have made the knockouts of the Champions League. We've got a lot of players out on loan as well. We will evaluate these guys once they do get back from their loans and see whether we sell or keep these guys, or if we loan them back out and who we can get them out to. Over to this season's results. This is going to be very, very happy reading in terms of the league. We ran through this a few episodes ago. We won this just dropping that one game in the second half of the season that was at home to Breidablik, but apart from that, most of our wins were quite comfortable, ending up with a plus 65 goal differential in a 22-game season, and we win the league by 17 points. HK, the other team who will be in the Champions League qualifying next season, Akranes in Europa League qualifying, and it is Filkir and Keflavik who will be down in Conference League qualifying from Reykjavik and Vesman Asia, the two teams who are getting relegated. In terms of our European performance, unfortunately, they don't rank what we did in the Europa League knockouts last season. I imagine the board were quite happy with us making the final of that competition, and we have done a good job so far in the Champions League, qualifying out of our group in the competition that we start in for the first time that we have not finished third in a group in the save so far. Hopefully, we can press on from that now and really improve the team with that nice £23 million transfer budget that we do have. The Mulka and we won that for the fifth straight season, in the end doing it extremely comfortably. Just that one game against Vala Reykjavik, which did go to extra time, that was a little bit worrying, but apart from that, a bunch of very, very comfortable wins, and we win that for the sixth time in the save and the fifth time in a row. The Super Cup we won at the start of the season, 3-1 over HK, not too much importance placed on that competition, and the same does apply for the Deal to Bakar, but very happy to get our hands back on this trophy after we did miss out on that one last year, after Breidablik did beat us in the semi-final, and yet again, that was quite a comfortable cup competition win for us. So we do pick up the domestic quadruple, made a Europa League final, and have made our way through to the Champions League knockouts for the first time. So on the whole, I think it's fair to say that might be our best season so far. Hopefully, we can keep improving on that. The moments to remember, the biggest win was in the Mulka 9-0 against a lower division opposition with a first half red card. I think there might be a few more important wins than that one throughout the season, but that is our biggest win. Apparently, the match to remember, the 7-1 win in the Islands dealing against Nuts KL, when they did pick up a late red card, and the goal of the season, I do remember this one quite well from Champions League qualifying. It was the leprechaun man John Matthews with a superb individual effort from inside his own half to seal that 5-1 result. He starts with the ball there inside our own half down the left-hand side, which is quite interesting for a right back, and he just jogs forward and absolutely cranks that into the top right corner. In fact, there was another goal scored after that by Fabio Mariano, but that is certainly one of the most memorable goals from this past season, and a well and truly deserving winner of our goal of the season here at Völsungur. In terms of the finances, everything going up as you would expect with us making a Europa League final, winning all the domestic competitions, and also getting through to the Champions League knockouts for the first time, albeit haven't got the money from that yet, but we have certainly somewhat got that because we have won more games in the group stages of the Champions League. Because of that, our top shirt sellers, Arnason, Larson, Rubio, Caviglia, and Satole, and our reputation throughout the year did jump up to that 3-star reputation, which is well and truly overdue as well. How we lined up, we'll deal with that soon because this one is never right. We'll get into that right off the back of the end of this part of the review. And our club awards are absolutely well and truly dominated by one man in particular, and that is Fabio Mariano. He picked up the player of the season and the young player of the season, largely for his work in the domestic league, ending up the top goal scorer in that competition with 21 goals, signing of the season and goal of the season. You saw before, top goal scorer for the year was Mariano with 43 goals. He is a definite strong backup to Benjamin Rubio here. Now, Caviglia continues to march on despite being 29 years old, 17 assists, the most for the season. The most player of the match awards actually did go to Rubio with 7. The highest average rating, though, was for Mariano. In terms of competition awards to go alongside those record-breaking awards that Mariano did pick up, he also picked up the Golden Boot, the Premier Division Player of the Year, as well as the Young Player of the Year in the top division. Well and truly the year that Fabio Mariano did break out on the domestic stage here in Iceland. And that does wrap up that part of the end of season review. Before we do get into anything else, we will go and have a look at our best 11 from this past year. And here is Husavik in goal, doing enough in his first season to get that starting spot. Our back four, Matthews, Polo, DePrisco and Mazer, so exactly matches our first choice back four throughout the second part of this season once the new European season did start. Our midfield, Galtason and Caviglia, partnered by Goffi Sisatole, didn't quite do enough to make his way into that first choice 11 in terms of these ratings for this past year, but hopefully he can stamp his mark on this team over the next few seasons, Patrick Nygaard did actually get the starting spot as our best right winger over Nicholas Zimmerman. I dare say that is because of that big injury he did suffer in the latter knockout stages of the Europa League. Fredrik Larsson, though, is our starting left winger in this best 11, and Fabio Mariano, obviously being player of the season, was going to be our starting striker, despite Benjamin Rubio still having a pretty good season, and the bench is made up of Sarah Fellaini, Ramadan Corbo, Zimmerman, Traore, and Arnason alongside the club captain in Benjamin Rubio. And now we have a look at our overall best 11, and the one player who has made his way into this lineup is Alejandro Meza, and he makes his way onto the bench. Not too much change here from what we did have at the end of last season. Sarah Fellaini still in goal, Diaz, Corbo, Mbiamba, and Carlo our back lines. That has certainly changed defensively at the start of this season from what we did previously have. Galtason, Caviglia, and Arnason the midfield, two of those players still in our first choice 11. Ledson still out there at left wing, Nygaard at right wing, despite these days being the backup to Zimmerman, and somehow Benjamin Rubio still hasn't got past João Pedro as our starting striker, with a bench of Badu, Shaw, Meza, Larsson, Bjarkason, Kadena, and of course Benjamin Rubio. And before we do wrap up the end of season review for this season, we do have the signings of the season. Unfortunately, none of our players are on this list, but as you can see, a few players that we did sell to other Icelandic clubs here in Ben Musa, and also up the top here of the runners-up in Stepanovicius. So we are trying to help out our fellow Icelandic clubs with these signings, and they are doing a decent job at other clubs despite not really cutting the grade for us here at Völsungur. And we do have a few articles as well on where our previous teams are, and these ones might be a little bit more interesting than what we have had over the last few seasons, because we have a few players who actually did quite a good job here and made their way into that best 11. So from the best 11, Ian, Carlo, Galtason, Caviglia, Arnason, Nygaard, Corbo, Larsson, and Rubio are still at the club. Of course, Sergio Cadena is at Chelsea. I still don't think he's actually made any appearances for them, and indeed he has not. So far has just been a bench warmer over there at Chelsea. Hopefully he can get a decent move in the future, so we do get a decent cash injection from that percentage of next sale clause that we did include in that deal when we did sell him. Xavier Mbiamba is at Fortuna Dusseldorf. He's been decent enough in 2 seasons there since we did sell him after a couple of very good seasons here at Völsungur. Also on the list here, Mikel Serafellini, as you saw before, hasn't played too much for Brighton since he did leave us 2 games and has only kept the 1 clean sheet from those, albeit not doing that badly, with a 6.95 average rating. Leandro Diaz is at Rio Ave in Portugal. If we have a look at how he is getting on, he's been okay in a few seasons since he has left us. Has actually been loaned out quite a few times by Udinese since they purchased him off us for £45,000, but potentially should be doing a little bit better down in the second league in Portugal. Other players from our best 11, João Pedro, of course, the starting striker. He is at Laures. He is now 33 years old. He's doing fairly well, actually, since he left us, especially in those first couple of years, but the goals are starting to dry up just a little bit since he did leave the Benfica club. Richmond Badu is at some club that I can't really pronounce, truth be told. He was our sort of starting / second choice goalkeeper back in 2023 and 22 in particular. He started to fall down the ranks before we let him go to Beerschot on a free transfer. Only did okay there and has only recently been picked up by a new team over there in Belgium. And we make our way down a little bit further. Kurt Shaw, of course, is at Keflavik. Hopefully he can help them out next season in Conference League qualifying. He's been quite good for them since he did leave us, so he has certainly helped those guys out since we did let him go on that free transfer. We have got Gavioli at Renate. He's been doing quite well since he left us for £8,000 every year above that 7 rating, so he's doing quite a good job. And to round things off, we do have Ledson. He is back in Brazil, 26 years old, is actually available on a free transfer, I suppose, because he is valued at $0, and he has done a good job in 2 seasons since leaving us, the homegrown club talent, seeing as we did bring him in nice and early, averaging over that 7.2 mark in 2 seasons since going back to Brazil. So that is what the players do look like in our best 11. The other player on that side, of course, Bjarki Baldursson, and he is available on a free transfer. We could get him back, but isn't really good enough for us at this stage of the save it is fair to say, and also doesn't fit in with our club vision of signing players not over the age of 30. And also the side of 2023 we can have a look at. I think this was the year when we did first qualify for Europe and also won the top division for the first time. So we've got the likes of Sarah Fellaini Diaz, who we just had a look at before, but Martin Swiderski is another player that we haven't had a check in a wee while. He is still at Donetska Streda over in Slovakia. He's been fairly decent for them, one season above 7, a few just under that since leaving us for £31,000. Vukan Dorovic is a little bit of a blast from the past. He was our former right wing starter, was the Serbian these days, 29 years old at a club called FK Vozdavac, and he has been doing an okay job since leaving us. Just that one season where he just averaged over a 7 but hasn't been doing too well, I think it's fair to say, back in his homeland, since he had a couple of good seasons here back in 2022 and 2023. We make our way down a little bit further, a couple of Italian midfielders. First off, Boscolo Schio, he is at Pistoiese in Italy. He's been averaging just under that 7 rating in 5 seasons since he did leave us, but is getting a lot more game time than he did get here at the club. So fair play to him for moving on. Then we do have Musameki. He is at Messina these days, 30 years old. He's been going pretty well since he left us, truth be told, averaging over a 7 every single season. So yet again, a former Italian midfielder doing a good job. Kurt Shaw, we had a look at before. Loritz Lillamosa was our former defensive midfielder here at the club. He is now back in Denmark, and he's been doing an okay job since he did leave us 2 seasons where he did average over a 7, one of those for Helsingør and one of those for his new club down in the 2nd division. Doesn't seem to be quite handling the top division quite as well. Axel Andrésson is a player that I don't really remember too much. He is an Icelandic centre-back. He was here for a very brief period of time in 2023-24. Didn't play too many games, but has actually been doing a pretty good job since moving on from us over in Sweden. A few other players who we haven't seen in a little while. Jacob Paprzycki, our former Polish left-back. He must be back in Poland these days, 30 years old, and again has been having the odd decent season, but is playing down for teams not in playable league. So is not getting game time at quite the same standard as he was when he was here at Völsungur. And moving down a little bit further, Nixon Mamaj for a very brief period of time was a right winger here at Völsungur. The Kosovan is now back in his home nation, doing a very good job over there, albeit again probably in a league that doesn't quite have the same quality as we do have here in the Icelandic league these days. And back down further, we've got a few players currently not at clubs or who have retired. Victor Mafio, available on a free transfer, is the 29-year-old Spaniard. He has spent recent time at Akranes and IR, so has started to fall down the pyramid a little bit here. In Iceland, we've got Gunnar Stefansson, who was there as our first choice striker in that best 11 for quite a few seasons. These days, he is a scout, but a very, very poor one with that judging player ability and judging player potential. The only real good attribute that he has there is his adaptability. Then we've got Mikhail Shekaj, who was a good centre-back for us for a few seasons. He went through Nutskaya and then back to Poland before he decided to retire at the age of 34. And Abdullah Bamba was our right back for a while. He retired after we did let him go at the end of 2025, being 35 years old. But I think that does cover things off for today's episode. Before we do wrap things up, we're going to go over to the Conference League and have a quick little look at how Fylkir are getting on. And unfortunately, they do find themselves bottom of the group. They did not back up that draw in their first game at home against Nîmes very well. Off the back of that, they did suffer a 3-0 defeat away at Real Sociedad, then lost 2-1 thanks to a late goal by Başak Şehir. That's a little bit of a disappointing result, especially after being 1-0 up nice and early in that one, and then also lost 3-0 in the return leg. So they are not doing a good job at the moment. Fylkir looks like they are going to finish bottom of their Conference League group. They do still have a couple of games left in the group away at Nîmes, so that's a little bit more promising potentially after they did get a draw against those guys in their first game, but then their last game is at home to top of the group, Real Sociedad. So those guys are probably going to end up finishing on 1 point and not give us too much more help in terms of coefficient ranking for this current season. So that will do it for today's episode. As I said before, getting through to the Champions League knockouts for the first time and getting through that end of season review. If you did enjoy today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up, on the video. And if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. In tomorrow's episode, we are going to wrap up the group stage of the Champions League. Absolutely no pressure on us for these games, seeing as we have already qualified. First up, we do take on Manchester City at home. If we do win that one, we do give ourselves a sneaky chance of maybe topping the group if Man City do start to slip up, albeit that is extremely unlikely. And off the back of that, we travel to Germany to take on Leipzig away. A win there could be quite useful potentially in terms of earning some more coefficient points. So that is what is coming up in tomorrow's episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.